Welcome everyone. I'm testing out this new little camera setup, so it may get weird. It may get, focus may go in and out. We'll see what happens. In the worst case, I'll switch back to my laptop computer camera, but we'll see. Anyways, just a few announcements. This is the last call on the Case Cup. Sent out an email as well, but if you are interested in purchasing some sparkling before New Year's Eve, now would be the time. So get your orders in now. There are a bunch of champagnes in there. They're more expensive. Oh, one's actually cheaper. The other two are more expensive than the ones that we've tasted, but there's some badass champagnes in there as well. So check it out. But if you want to put your order in, put your orders in now, because I'm gonna move quite quickly this month. So I won't have a whole lot of room to kind of add on your orders later. So if you're interested in doing that, do that now. Also, I sent it on the reminder email yesterday, but I am one spot away from finalizing the Bosch box. So it's very close. I have 4 spots left. Well, actually, I have 3 spots left. Thank you, Kyler and Margaret. One of your friends actually emailed me earlier today asking if they could join in on the Bosch box. So I have 3 left. Yeah. Let me know if you're sitting on the fence and want to join, or you know somebody, neighbor, friends, coworkers. Help me fill out the last 3 so we can get this going. I mean, we're going to get it going in regardless, but it would be nice to fill it all out. So, and yeah, if you are still waiting for a nice Christmas gift or holiday gift, I hear Bosch Box makes an excellent, excellent gift. So just saying.
What is the shipping? I'm just curious. If we do sell this to other people, let's just say.
Depends on where they live.
Okay.
But like to West Coast, which is the most expensive, will be around like 60, 65, somewhere around there. Okay. 63.
That's less than I was expecting actually for that distance. So
yeah. But yeah, it depends on where they live.
Okay. Yeah.
I think the East Coast is like, I don't know, 30 some bucks, 35, 40 bucks.
That's not bad. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, that's all I got for announcements. Oh no, I do have another announcement, which is you might have heard, for those of you who are sticking around late last week, you might have heard Marty and I talking about this, but there's a Riesling fair that's happening in New York on the 18th, 16th, 18th. Anyways, I'm putting the link in the chat box, but the Godfather himself is going up there, and his 2 sons will be joining. It's basically all the creme of the creme, like the top Riesling producers from Austria, Germany, and I think there's some Alsace represented here as well, but mostly Germany and Austria. Von Boden, which is the big German importer in the States, they are putting this on, and they're inviting all their top Riesling producer, German and Austrian producers, to come and basically put on this Riesling fair. So there's a tasting that's available that's happening. There are 4 different sessions. The first 2 are already sold out, but there are last 2 that are available. And then there's a whole gala and dinner that's happening afterwards. It's like $500, but it's like, I don't know, that seems too much. So Marty is not going, but Marty and I are thinking about, I haven't decided if I'm going to go up there yet, but I'm leaning towards yes. So he and I decided that we should just do our own dinner. So if people are interested in joining us up in New York for a bunch of Riesling, Austrian and German Riesling, some of the best in the world, then you should come and join. I think it's like $75 for like a walk around tasting of like top producers in the world, essentially, of Riesling. So it's pretty cool. It'll be a fun time. Check it out if you're interested. If not, that's fine too. But I figure I would at least let you all know. Marty would enjoy that. I would enjoy that. So if we can all get together maybe in New York and do a fat ass dinner with a bunch of Riesling. All right. And last but not least, we are donating to Food for All DC this month. If you want to check out what they do, we're donating alongside 6 Foot Wine Club. You can check out the link right there in the chat box. Any questions about what's happening? By the way, for those of you, which is pretty much everybody on this screen right now, have all joined in on the Boj box. It's gonna go out with your next month's box. So it will get there on the first or the first Tuesday of January. You'll pick up along with your monthly wines, and for those of you who get shipped, it will get there as well. And then we'll get started rolling with in January with our first recorded tasting, and then you'll know the drill. Every fourth one is live tasting. So for those of you, you will have 2 tastings per week, every fourth week. Any questions about any of that before we move into the wine? Cool. Hearing none, let's move into the wine. We're tasting this guy today. This little funny M's. I'm pretty sure this is some sort of alphabet in Georgian. I don't know. Maybe Heidi, you can fill me in on this. But little boobies or little butts. I don't know what these are, but
They're
M's
characters
and
in
O's.
the Georgian alphabet.
Yeah. But 2022 Pheasant's tier Polyphonia is what we're tasting today. This is I mean, I don't want to be the parent that raised their children, but this is probably my favorite of the box this month. This one is probably what shocked me the most out of the 4. I mean, they were all great, don't get me wrong, I like them all, but this one particularly really resonated with me for a lot of reasons. And I think a lot of that is also has a lot to do with the producer. We're going to spend some time talking about John, who's one half of Pheasant's Tears today. But yeah, I was reading an interview by him. We're going to watch a little video that he made as well. But yeah, I don't know. It's just really, yeah, that guy, John Wurdeman, really resonated with me. It actually wanted, if you ever thought wine wasn't romantic, like this is going to make you feel like realize that wine is romantic and Georgia is romantic. Like watching his video and reading his interview made me want to go to Georgia. It's like my next trip is going to be Georgia. Like that kind of like how much it resonated. Yeah, I want to go like meet the man, talk about wine scenes over there. But anyways, we'll get to that in a sec. But yeah, there it is. So where are we? Let's start with a map as we always do. Here's Georgia. It's the same kind of same region that we were in yesterday. I mean last week. But before we get there, in case there's a refresher what the Georgia is, I actually I dug up and was looking through doing a whole bunch of research today. Like, is Georgia considered Asia? Is Georgia considered Europe? Like, is it Levant? Is it Middle East? I had all these kind of questions. But the best I could come up with is that it's called Eurasia, which is kind of like this whole Turkey, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Georgia, this area. But as you can see, this is where Georgia is, this little red box, in case you're wondering where that is. Obviously, you got a lot of Russian influence. I mean, we talked a lot about, I mean, we've been living through the war in Crimea in Ukraine for the last, years. But talk about a place where kind of actually Russian influence is a daily kind of a threat, so to speak. I mean, it's right there. So yeah, just to the north, you got Russia. To the east, you got all the Central Asian countries. But to the south, you got some Turkey, you got Iran, Iraq, Syria. So as you can imagine, geopolitically speaking, it has always been a very fascinating and interesting place. And a lot of people, a lot of different civilizations have passed through this area. So this is what we're talking about. And just as a reminder, it is the oldest, as of right now, in 2015, I believe, they found a little jar or urn clay pot in an anthropological dig in eastern part of Georgia. That has some remains of grape seeds and grape skins and wine left in the pieces. So they believe, as of right now, the evidence of the oldest winemaking in human history, human civilization, comes from Georgia. So it's widely believed that it is a birthplace of winemaking. But back in the days, there used to be Phoenicians that lived here. So all through Syria, Lebanon, and then in Georgia, all through this area. This is all Phoenician territory. So it's hard to say exactly now, it's a current day Georgia, but it was really the Phoenicians who kind of started it all. So, but nonetheless, we're talking about 8,000 plus year old history. We're talking about a very, very ancient winemaking civilization, culture that we're tasting this month. We are back in Kakheti, which is this green part on the eastern part of Georgia. So we're in Kakheti. Most of the wines that we're tasting this month is all Kakheti. Actually, it may all be Kakheti, actually, now I think about it. But anyways, that's where we are. It is the largest, not only in terms of the vine coverage, but it's also in terms of quantity. It is the most significant. Pretty much if you are familiar with Georgian wine, or you've had Georgian wine in the States before, the chances are you probably had something from Kakheti, because this is where a lot of the export is made. We talked about this a little bit last week as well, but as you can imagine, there's a big Black Sea is to the left. So big body of water, so a lot of a moderating influence. But as you go towards more inland, it becomes a lot more continental. So the weather becomes a lot more marginalized or marginal. So it becomes hotter, it becomes colder in the wintertime, hotter in the summertime. But also on the other side, that's not what I meant to do. Also on the other side is the Caspian Sea. But it's not directly touching the Caspian Sea, so there's less of a maritime influence, but it does get moderated a little bit. So it's not as black and white, very typical continental weather you see, but it does have some moderating influence coming from left and right. Also, the Caucasus Mountain runs through, so the elevation plays a huge role here. So higher you go, obviously, the colder it gets, more UV light that you get. So, in terms of wine styles, there about 500 plus indigenous varieties that are not found anywhere else in the world, basically grown here. So diversity of grape varieties, the diversity of climate, going from west to the east, different aspects, different elevation, different soil types, all these things make for really diverse styles of wine that come out of Georgia. And so, yeah, kind of what I'm trying to do this month is also to kind of shine a light on some of that. Like there's a lot of that really we've come to, at least in the US market, as American wine drinkers, we've come to appreciate, or we've come to expect these really tannic, burly, big, punch in the face kind of orange wines, amber wines, as well as red wines from Georgia. But the truth of the matter is there's a lot of really elegant different styles that exist here. So I really want to shine some lights on that, because you can easily find those wines on the market everywhere. So I really try to focus on something that was different, something little perhaps uncommon. So yeah. Even here, the village there where John or the Pheasant here's in is called Tibani. So yeah, but just know that this is all right here in Kakheti. Yeah. By the way, if you're interested in this map, I can obviously share this with you. I can also put this on the Google Drive that we have. But yeah, the other day I got a little geeky and was going through and kind of reading about each one of these kind of grape varieties. But there's just so many of them. I mean, 500 plus. It's insane. So just to spend the time, and we're gonna get into that. That ties into the kind of theme of this week's wine. But yeah. So just know that there are a lot of different varieties, not just one or two. All right. So this is a guy who makes the wine, John Wurdeman. This is what he looks like, sitting in front of his Supra, which means feast in Georgia. Drinking is what looks like a sparkling red. But this is also his business partner. I don't know how to pronounce this, Heidi. Maybe you can help me with this. Gela, G-E-L-A. Is it Gela? Hella? Ella? I don't know how to pronounce his business partner's name.
Gela?
G-E-L-A.
I think it's just a G sound.
Yeah, Gela.
Gela.
Gela. All right, so it's Gela. Let's go with Gela. Apologize. Apologies to Gela if it's pronounced differently. But Gela Patalishvili. I'm gonna put it in the chat box because I said
I
this
love you
wrong.
for trying.
Yeah, it is quite hard. But how do I put it in the chat box right now? I don't know. I'll put it in the chat box once we get out of the share function. But yeah, this is John and Gela. He's a business partner. John is a American artist. He's also a musician. He's a restaurateur. He's a winemaker, obviously. And above all, he's actually a Virginia native. He was born in Santa Fe, New Mexico, but he actually grew up in Richmond, Virginia, raised by his artist parents. John was drawn to, here, I'm actually going to get out of this thing right now. How do I do this? Okay. Oh, there you go. I see it. All right. I put just John and Gela's name in the chat box in case you were wondering. John was drawn to Georgia from a very young age after being introduced to like a traditional Georgian folk music. Apparently it's a polyphonic music. In case you're not familiar with what that means, I have to look it up myself. It's based in music with a bunch of different multiple melodic lines instead of one singular melody and harmony to back it up. That's a very traditional music in Georgia. He was introduced to traditional Georgian folk, polyphonic folk music by an exchange student who was half Georgian, half Russian Jewish girl that he met in high school, who he later married. After college, he moved to Russia for graduate studies in art studies at a very renowned art institute in Russia. And while there, he visited Georgia for the first time in 1995, returning the following year to help a friend harvest grapes and to explore the traditions of harvest time through his art. A faithful visit to the village of Sighnaghi convinced him to move there in a matter of weeks. He actually bought a house there for $2,400 in 1995. No electricity, no running water, any of that, overlooking the Alazani Valley, which is where a lot of the vineyards are in Kaheti, that included a small vineyard and orchard. Unfortunately, his wife at the time, the exchange student that he met in high school, was a very established musician at this point, playing with the top musicians in the world, and living in a little village in Georgia with no running water and no electricity wasn't exactly her cup of tea, which apparently drove them apart. So eventually, John and his high school sweetheart separated. But he remained in the village, and then later he met who will soon be a second wife, which is this lady, Ketevan Mindorashvili. I apologize for terrible pronunciation, but Ketevan, who grew up there, was a specialist in local folk music. Now, as she's seen in this picture, they also have a restaurant concept. Pheasant's Tier also runs a restaurant. So it's not only a winery, but it's also a restaurant. But even within the restaurant, they do like a basically chef's table between the vines in the vineyard. And she's the chef for that. So she's seen here cooking foraged wild mushrooms. But anyways, it was Ketavan who introduced John to Gela, who you saw earlier in this picture right here. A local farmer and a winemaker who would become John's business partner in Pheasant's Tears. The winery's name, by the way, Pheasant's Tear, you're wondering why it's named Pheasant's Tear. Apparently, there's a Georgian folk tale. Actually, it's not even Georgian. It's actually Kaheti folktale, which states that only a truly, truly excellent superlative wine could make a pheasant cry tears of joy, hence the name Pheasant's Tear. John and Gela opened the Pheasant's Tear in 2007, and then the whole kind of aim from the beginning was to track down and revive near extinct native grape varieties from all over Georgia. Through the Soviet era, there's a lot of these kind of old varieties were kind of forgotten, and only few varieties were were used, and then even stylistically speaking, a lot of kind of high alcohol, sweeter kind of wines were favored in the Russian market or Soviet market. So their whole aim from the beginning of Pheasant's here was to go out and find, revive these old, almost extinct or going extinct native grapes, and then make the wines in the diverse kind of traditional styles that always used to exist in Georgia in 8,000 plus years of winemaking tradition. They started out with a very traditional cuvee fermentation and aging, but now they have incorporated some modern winemaking techniques. So they do incorporate some stainless steel, which is used in this wine that we're drinking this week as well, into their winemaking. Total, they farm 17 hectares of vineyards, which is pretty big in Georgia. Not many single, privately owned wineries farm that much. 17 hectares planted across several vineyards all over Georgia, mostly in eastern Kakheti, but they also have it in Ajara, which is this region right here in the southwest against the ocean. They also have wineries in this purple area, Meshketi, in the middle as well. So you're really getting some, through Pheasants here, you can really kind of get a sense of different terroirs and different varieties through different elevation and soil type, climate, other things that we talked about earlier. They're all farmed organically. I mean, obviously, no chemicals, no synthetic substance, all of that, all the things, all the tenets of natural wine that we talk about. But the thing about John is, and I didn't realize what an important figure he was in Georgian wine, at least in terms of making it global. It's probably not an exaggeration to say John is responsible for kind of igniting this kind of global interest in the Georgian wines and the winemaking tradition of Georgia. But he's not only a protector of that tradition, but he's also a promoter of Georgian wine. So in addition to Pheasant's Tears, he founded Tbilisi's first natural wine bar called Vino Underground, still open to this day now, in 2010. He also helped in founding the country's only natural wine association. So he's doing a lot of work in Georgia, not in Georgia, but also promoting Georgian wines globally as well. Well, at this point, I also want to show you this video. How do I get out of this thing? Also, I'm going to put this in the chat box as well in case you want to read this amazing interview that I read that made me want to go to Georgia and meet John. In fact, and track down John anyway. But I wanted to share this video that's on this website because it's pretty good.
Part of my attraction to Georgia was always the search for something raw, something real, something that was unvarnished. Some place where feelings and emotions and scenery and culture was still very alive and kicking in an intense and beautiful way. And in 1998, I was asking my friends in Kakheti, where I could take some foreign painters that had come to visit me and give them this kind of full-on experience. And they hands down said, go to Tusheti. And when we got in, piled into the back of this old Russian military vehicle and ascended the heights of Tusheti, we ended up in this wondrous place of shepherds, of extraordinary mushrooms for foraging, of waterfalls, of rugged cliffs, but also very green and very rich and very vibrant. And my first feeling was, how is it possible that such a place like this exists and nobody knows about it? But it was love at first sight, and I've been going there every year since. Over the years, I also met a man named Zaza Lagazidze, who was struggling very much to give a protection status, kind of a wildlife sanctuary status to Tusheti, so that Tushetians could continue their almost medieval way of life up in the mountains, but that nature would be protected and wouldn't become overrun by tourism. And Zaza helped me understand all the hidden gems and places and history and nature and flora and fauna of the area. And then later, Shotiko, his son, ended up being one of my best friends and accomplices in crime and foraging. And we make wine together and share our wines throughout the world. But also, one of the most beautiful aspects to our friendship is those quiet moments in the misty forest of Tusheti, looking for the perfect bolitas, or the cauliflower mushrooms, or some sort of other unique and delicious fungi that's perfected in nature. Tushetian people, like most of the people in the Caucasus, are extraordinarily hospitable. Hospitality knows no boundaries, and so often coming out of the hills by foot or by horseback and stumble into acquaintances of people we don't know at all, and you quickly get absorbed into a Chacha soaked encounter. Again, with pungent sheep's cheese and beautiful fresh breads and pickles and whatever might be in the car at the moment. And this, of course, takes on a much more lavish form in the lowlands, but the chivalry and this idea that you give everything to your guests, even to strangers that you just encountered upon your way, this kind of selfless embrace and love is another aspect of Georgia that has always intrigued me. And this idea of taking the risk to embrace strangers and share with them words and toasts and songs and break bread with them, I think is, for me personally, has been very healing.
If that's not romantic, I don't know what else is. But you all should check out this interview that was written on Apartamento. It's not only is great, it gives a lot of background on John himself, but it also kind of paints a really great picture of the wine culture and just culture, Georgian culture in general, which I found really fascinating and heartwarming and really curious. Really got my curiosity rolling as well. So I highly recommend you check it out. I said a link to the chat box right there. Let's see. What is this wine? So we talked about how there's so many varieties. There are like 500 plus varieties, indigenous varieties that are not found anywhere else in the world. So when they started Pheasant's Tears years later, they actually got a collection of vineyards in eastern Kakheti with over 150 grape varieties were given to Pheasant's Tears by the Georgian Ministry of Agriculture to kind of help preserve and research indigenous grape varieties. Everything, those all 150 were all co-planted, co-fermented, of a mix of yellow, green, pink, red, purple, all these different blue varieties. Full spectrum of color, texture, flavors, and all of that. And this, the kind of the color on the label is kind of the homage to the fact that there's so many different things co-fermented here. So this particular bottle, I've never seen anything like this, and quite frankly, this is probably how the wines used to be made, back in the days, where it wasn't, this is like a varietal blending or varietal winemaking. It just is a field blend, right? It's just usually a co-ferment of whatever grew in the vineyard that would just throw it all and ferment it together. So this is really the ancient way of doing it, but over the years, nobody's done it. We've gone completely over into single varietal. vinification that old school is now becoming new school, and then this kind of stuff is kind of cool again. So this is a field blend of 117 indigenous varieties that have been recognized, and 40 more out of the 150 grapes that were given. The 40 of them are still unidentified. So they had no idea what the other 40 that went in here is, and nobody knows. But the 117 they were able to find out of that 150 that they were given. So this is kind of like a cool project that they embarked on. But in terms of actual winemaking tech, so this is a direct press, very traditional in a lot of ways, which is a direct press into cuvee that we saw yesterday, last week, right? That gigantic earthen clay amphora that get buried in the ground. Then where this is where the modern making technique kind of makes its introduction. But then it gets racked into stainless steel after 6 months. So after 6 months of fermenting and staying on the skins, they rack it off and then put it in stainless steel. They age it for 1 year in stainless steel, just let things meld and just kind of chill. And then it is bottled unfiltered, unfined. Depending on the vintage and depending on the year, they do put some sulfites, but it's very little to none. I couldn't confirm whether there was any sulfites in this wine or not. But yeah, so it depends on the year. They sometimes have it, sometimes not. My inclination, my hunch is that there probably is no sulfites on this wine, given that there's 6 months of skin contact on here. But again, could not confirm. That's what we got in terms of what this wine is. Any questions about anything I just went over before we get into actually tasting the wine? So I'm also seeing the chat box now. Vino Underground is great. Chacha is a spirit made of leftover grape skins and pulp after the pumice, which is also called Chacha. Strong as fuck. Yeah, I mean it's like grappa. It's Georgia grappa essentially. Yeah. Have you been to Vino Underground, Heidi? Yeah.
Yeah, it's right in the center of Tbilisi, and the hotels are not far, so I always make a little adventure there.
Cool.
And it's always an adventure.
Yeah.
You never know who you're gonna meet or what's gonna happen, which is really fun.
Have you met John?
No, he was usually in Kakheti when I was there, but his staff is so nice.
Okay.
And there was one time, there's this wine label called Ucha's wine,
Okay.
which is from Imereti, and he was there tasting his team on the wine, and I was like, alone, and I was the only one there just reading and like trying wines, and they're like, hey, you, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm reading, and they're like, come here. Come here. So I just like tried like 12 wines with him, and he was so nice. Yeah, they were really nice. So they are like aggressively hospitable.
Yeah. Amazing.
Very nice though.
I like that. I like that. All right. Well, let's taste this wine. Seems like there are not many people joining us today, so I mean, I feel like all of you could take a section here. But let's start with an appearance. Who wants to take the appearance?
Did you say what it was made of? What grapes?
I mean, again, there's 117 of them. I mean, there are 150 different varieties in here.
I found this note from Aster Wine with the 2022 vintage that says Chinori, Katsatelli, and Saparavi.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably got everything in there. That's definitely in there. I just don't know what else is in there.
Okay.
We can do appearance. It's a little different than usual, so.
All right. Yeah, I mean, this is there's no, like, this is why I'm shocked by it when I tasted it. Also, this is the very first wine that I tasted, but of Georgian wine when it's starting to taste for Georgia. But it's like there's no reference point for this wine. Like I've never had anything like this. It's just like such a singularly unique wine. It's almost, it's very hard to kind of even go through it with the grid, but here we go. Let's give it a try. All right, appearance.
There's some cloudiness to it.
Yeah, a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would still call this. I mean, I didn't. Mine has also been standing up for a while, but I would still call this mostly clear, but yeah,
I
definitely.
mean, I can definitely see through it, but
We
it's
both
it's hazy.
just spent maybe a full minute kind of peering at it,
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
decide if it's clear or if it's hazy, and it's
Yeah.
kind of not quite either.
Yeah, it's like somewhere in between. Yeah, it's hard to say, but yeah, for sure, definitely not filtered, definitely not
Okay,
fine,
like
yeah, all of that.
Yeah.
change how you look at it, and it looks like something different.
Yeah. Intensity.
um, what is it? It's not intense for a red wine. It's very intense for a white wine.
Yeah, this right. Yeah, I mean, I would call this probably about like, I don't know, medium. But again, like, yeah, like I guess if I were to use even a rosé sample here, which is essentially what orange wine, yeah, but wine, yeah, again. But I would call this about medium. The color is fascinating here, right? Like I don't know. I guess I mean, I'm not gonna feed into your mouth, but what do you think the color is? What would you call the color on this thing?
I mean, I want to say like amber, but
Like
I don't know.
salmon.
Yeah.
Um. Yeah, I know we're gonna need like a color wheel on this.
Yeah. Right? It's like, yeah, I mean, if anything, closer thing on here probably would be amber, but like to me,
Amber's
it's
good.
like amber, but there's a lot of like orangey, coppery hue to this thing.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, yeah.
You know? So yeah, again, like, yeah, I don't know what to call it, but yeah. Coppery, orangey, amber. Let's go with that. Any other observations?
No.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, no bubbles. I don't have any sediment in my glass. Yeah, just that it's unfiltered, I'm fine, little kind of like hazy, but you can still see through it. But yeah, that was it. Excellent, excellent. You get to pick the next person for the nose.
Let's go with Cecilia.
Hey,
Hey, Cecilia.
hello. All right, so it smells clean.
Mhm.
I think intensity is like medium. I'm getting it like just above the rim, but I have kind of a shitty wine glass too.
I don't know. I'm getting pretty far off here.
I have like one of those stemless dishwasher safe ones, so it's crappy.
Yeah, mine is up here. So I'm gonna call this medium plus. Medium plus. Well, but also before we get into the intensity, let's talk about condition for a second here. What do you think? What do you
About what?
smell?
I'm sorry.
The condition of the wine. Is this wine clean? Is this sound? Is this
Oh,
unclean?
I said clean. Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't smell funky to me.
Yeah, so I would say this wine is sound. There's nothing wrong with this wine. There's nothing here that is like gone wrong. This is exactly what the winemaker intended. But there's definitely it's like there's an elevated level of VA here for sure. There's a little bit of like, this is interesting to me because I rarely ever get like reduction with a Georgian wine with the amount of time it spends on in Coveri, but there's a little bit of reduction here. Maybe it has something to do with the stainless steel in here. But yeah, mostly I get a little bit of a VA, which is a little bit like, you know, balsamic vinegar, little vinegary and all of that. Not over the top, but I'm just like noting that it's there.
Yeah, it's not off-putting.
Yeah. So I would say this wine is sound, perhaps a little unclean, but yeah, this wine there's nothing wrong with the wine. That's how I'll put it that way. All right, so we established medium plus intensity. What do you smell?
Really
Yeah,
bad.
have fun with this.
I get a little floral, I feel like
Me too.
honey, maybe not honeysuckle. Maybe like chamomile.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna call chamomile off off the top. Yeah, for sure. I get chamomile.
I smell like green apple, I think.
Little appley.
A little pear, I feel like.
Yeah, I smell a little bit of like yellow apple. I smell a little bit of like that, like orchard, like apple orchard, like floor, like dropped on the floor that's like just like ferment a little bit, like little cidery kind of thing as well as a fresh pear, like all quince, that kind of stuff as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure I know what quince smells like.
Quince is a fruit that gets everyone on this wine club. So, fuck is quince. Any citrus?
I feel like I smell grapefruit, but I don't know if it's the color that's also telling me that. But I do
Yeah,
smell, I do smell citrus, and but it's not like limey.
Yeah, like to me, I get like tangerine, dried, like tangerine orange peel kind of a thing going on here. But
Yeah.
definitely some citrus here for sure. Any stone fruit? Tropical fruit?
I don't think so.
I get a little bit of like dried apricot.
Yeah.
Yeah, touch of like a dried apricot. Not much tropical fruit. But yeah, the dried apricot, maybe dried peach, but more apricot than a peach for me. That I get here as well. Any red fruit, black fruit?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't get much of red fruit, black fruit. Nature of the fruit. I mean, we talked a little bit about it, but yeah, is this fresh? Is this dry? Is this fermenting? What do you get?
Smells more fresh and like
Y-
zest, like, or peels. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, depends on what it is. Some of these green fruit, I definitely get some fresh things as well. The citrus peels, I get more of dried. Chamomile is definitely like I get like dry chamomile, not fresh chamomile. So it's like mixture, and then apricot, I get dried apricot. So it's like mixture of dry and fresh here, which is oftentimes what you get with the skin contact wines. So yeah, that checks out. Any herbaceous, herbal, spice, anything like that?
I'm not getting any, no.
Yeah, it's
I have a
not
hard
listed.
time picking it out.
Yeah, it's not listed here, but I get a little bit of like, I mean, this goes along with the chamomile, but like a little bit of tea. I get a little bit of like dried hay, some of that kind of like savory, dried element to it here. Not necessarily herbal, but yeah, touch of black tea, touch of hay, and then chamomile is kind of what I get. Any rocks?
I do not get any stone.
Yeah, me neither. Any secondary, any tertiary here?
No, it smells very fresh.
Yeah, no secondary here for me. Not really any tertiary here. Anything not from aging at least. It's just from like these kind of dried apricot thing. This is not necessarily coming from a tertiary thing, just more from skin contact. But yeah, still very much in the primary world here. But hitting quite a bit of things here. We got floral, green fruit, citrus fruit, stone fruit. We got fresh and dry. Some of these kind of dried hay, dried tea kind of a thing going on here as well. So yeah, hitting quite a few things, but yeah, definitely all in the primary as well. Excellent. You get to pick the next person for the palette.
Does anybody want to go?
Bueller.
Like my old Spanish teacher would say, voluntaria.
Well, we'll give it a shot. We're a little rusty, but we'll give it a shot.
All right. I mean, so the fun thing or safe thing about this is that, again, like I said, there's no reference point for this wine. So it just, whatever you, in general, whatever you get is whatever you get. I encourage you to say it, but here particularly, like this wine is nothing like anything. So, go for it. Sweetness.
Sorry, let me. It's dry. Dry? Just
Oh,
normal?
yeah.
Sorry.
Definitely
I don't know.
dry. Like bone dry.
Yeah, dry.
For
Sorry,
sure.
there was a pause there, so I was like, maybe not.
Sorry. Yeah, I didn't hear. So, definitely dry. Again, like bone dry. Okay. Acidity?
I don't
Like
think it's
me-
that acidity.
I think so. I feel it. I think medium plus. I feel it like
There's a good amount of acidity here. There's a medium plus is what I would call this. Like, not only the actual pH level is low, which means it's acidic, but that VA really lifts up a lot of these kind of like tart flavors out of the wine. A lot of these fruit characters are really tart and bright. So yeah, I'm gonna call this definitely a medium plus acid. Tannin.
low. I always forget tannin. I'm not as good about tannin, but I would, from what I understand, what tannin tastes like sometimes.
Push it all around.
Uh-huh.
It's like Listerine it, and then feel for like this kind of like drying sensation and friction in your mouth.
I get that.
Yeah, like I don't know if you ever tried like really over steeped tea.
Yeah.
There's that sensation. That's tannin. So what would you call this just in general? Like, just take a guess, and then I'll tell you what I would think. I would call this.
Well, Ryan says he got it. I didn't really too much, so I said I mean medium minus.
Yeah, I'll call this about medium. A lower end of medium, high end of medium minus, but either way, it's not super high. But I'll call this I'll call this medium if I call it. So, helping you calibrate your senses is about medium. But with tannin, depending on the nature of tannins, because some tannins are like really big and rustic and chewy. Some tannins are really like soft and powdery. It tends to be more in the like kind of soft powdery category. But with the really like chewy rustic tannins, even when the level is low, sometimes can come off even more tannic than it actually that is, just because the nature of the tannin is so like chewy.
That's it. For as long as I've been in wine club, maybe I've just missed it. I've always associated, I think, tannin with more the first one that you said, like the more like super jammy, super heavy.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I'll call this about medium, lower end of medium, higher end of medium minus, somewhere around there. Again, for something that has been on skins for 6 months, for it to have this kind of like really well integrated, fine tannin, fine grains of tannin, it's quite remarkable. So yeah, but I will still call this medium. All right, alcohol.
I did not look at the bottle. I don't have it in front of me because I don't know, but it doesn't. Not I don't know, but I mean, I would guess maybe like 12, maybe 13%.
That on 12%, which is right on the medium range. Yeah. Where are we? Body.
I mean, I feel like it lasts. It lasts.
Got some weight.
Yeah.
Got some weight for sure.
I would say again, it's still medium plus.
Yeah, I would call this higher end of medium, lower end of medium plus, depending on the temperature of your wine. That will probably change. Right now, my wine, I would call this probably medium, but I can see this going into medium plus. But it's definitely got some weight. Definitely having that structural, like tannic component, builds into the body as well. But as of right now, yeah, medium to medium plus is where this wine is. Musu, we don't have to talk about, obviously. Flavor intensity.
I mean, again, I'd say medium plus.
Yeah, there's
Like,
nothing. Yeah, there's nothing shy about these flavors. They're like in your face. I'll definitely call this medium plus as well. Do you agree with everything that Cecilia called out? Is there anything else that pops out for you guys?
I do. I think the one that really resonated with me when you said it was the dried apricot. I feel like that one tasted the most to me when I had it. I did not taste the chamomile, but maybe I just don't. But that just wasn't for me. Like, or maybe I was just thinking too much about. But no, I agree. I think even tasting it, you can taste some of the apple and the pear as well, but like more.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely some VA here for sure as I get along. Like again, but not in a bad way. Like it's perfectly in the right line, and it kind of lifts up all the fruit. Like it keeps it really bright. the fact that wine that's been on skins for 6 months can have this much brightness and light on its feet and elegance, again, which is not exactly something that I associate with Georgian wines. Like I rarely ever use the word light on its feet, elegant when I'm describing Georgian wines. But this wine I think hits kind of all those things, and which is quite nice. And I agree. On the palate, I'm confirming everything that Cecilia smelled and checked out. But mostly all in the primary as well. Finish. How long is the length?
I mean, I think it's all combined. So I mean, I think I would still say medium plus, where like it does kind of stay.
Yeah, was on. Hit just medium. Going through like medium plus now. Yeah, I'm gonna call this about like higher in the medium, lower in the medium plus, depending on how you want to go. But yeah, this is where we go. All right, bring it home for us. How good is this wine, and would you age it?
I would say very good, and the reason why is because it does have. I mean, it is really bold in flavor, has a lot of these like elegance, but it's only very good, not standing, because it really just has the primaries, not as much of the secondary.
Excellent. I'm glad that you. I like that you justify that and then say.
I knew you were gonna ask me. Like, all right.
Had it had more complexity, this would have squarely been very good.
It reminded me of one of my favorite wines that you gave us once a long time ago, Eros.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of that a little bit, but I love.
Yeah, that was also an orange wine, like a stick
yeah.
white wine. Yeah. Good memory. Good.
Well, I bought like 5 of them. I really liked them, so I got a bunch of them.
Yeah. But I agree. Yeah, I think this one is really well balanced, especially for Georgian wine. Like balance is also sometimes a challenge. This is super well balanced. Concentration we call medium plus on the nose, medium plus on the palate. Complexity we call out a bunch of stuff on the primary, but like you said, we don't have secondary, we don't have tertiary. Had it had more like maybe edge on it, would have been squarely in the medium plus, but that's maybe medium. And we call finish in the medium to medium plus. So we're landing somewhere between good and very good, but again, being generous, we're going to call it very good. But had it had more complexity, this would have squarely been in very good, like what they said, which is perfect. Would you age this?
I think you can. Again, I think because of the different grape varieties that are in it, it probably maybe changes over time. I don't know, changes over time. But I would also
I
drink it
imagine it
now.
would change a lot with all the different grapes.
Yeah. Again, this wine is so singularly unique. I'm not sure how it will change. I'm really enjoying its kind of freshness right now. But it definitely has tannin, right? We call it medium. It definitely has acid, so it has a structural component for the age for a very long time. It has a concentration, and we also said the only thing that was keeping us from calling it very good squarely is the complexity. So had some of that secondary, tertiary kicked in, maybe we would call it squarely very good, which would happen if you were to age this. So I would say drink this now. I think this is beautiful. It's fresh. It's drinking beautifully right now, but I think it's an excellent candidate for aging. I would say with the tanniness level, this will probably be just fine up to probably next 5, at least 5 up to probably 8 years. So I would say leave it down, come back and check back again in 3 years, probably still fresh, check back in 5, check back in 8. So every 2 to 3 years, I would say, come and check back in is what I would say about this one. But yeah, enjoy between 5 and 8. I think this one's gonna be very interesting, but still holding on to a lot of the fresh primary that we like in between year 5 and 8 is what I would say. Excellent. Good job, everyone. I know that was not an easy one because